We're standing here with all of the sediment that was collected at Project Turtle Bluff, and this is all of the raw material that we need to screen wash and pick for microfossils that will hopefully tell us more about the environment that we had living alongside these mammoths. So it's a labor-intensive process, but it'll give us a whole lot of new scientific information. There's a bunch of vegetation in here. There's all sorts of stuff that you then have to pick through in order to get down to the fossil material. And our goal is to break up all of that clay without breaking the tiny fossils that might be inside of it. This is what we end up with. And most of these are small little tan chunks of kind of like limestone. And what I'm pulling out are all of the things that are different from that general substrate or what we call matrix. Nobody's put in a solid project to look at these microfossils. So the appeal are the giant mammoths.
Right.
But so many people forget that there's a whole ecosystem. And you gotta look for the tiny things. And you can't say that we don't have any if you don't look. So the goal is to look at every single grain of sediment. So we go through and we sprinkle just a little bit of material onto the tray. And I've got a grid on there so that I know with arrows up and down whether or not I've seen something. So I just kind of start in the center and get myself organized. And then it's just kind of like a conveyor belt. Once you know what you're looking for, I can just keep the tray moving. And then if I find something I like, I have to stop and get a teeny tiny paintbrush in order to remove that material. Because my finger is way too big to be able to pick up any of this stuff. And that even includes a mineral called hematite, which are these little black balls that just kind of tell us something about whether the sediment was wet or whether it was dry. So not a fossil, but still something very tiny that can tell us more about the environment. So it ends up being a wide variety of things that get pulled, even though I am personally most interested in the vertebrates, the teeny tiny vertebrates. But you need the whole story. So I collect what I can find and then reach out to other researchers to help figure out what we're even looking at. And it's just phenomenal to think that, I mean, this took 6 months and they were just individual pieces. And we've got what we know to be an alligator snapping turtle. So these ridges along the back here are a giveaway for alligator snapper. And what's really cool is they don't live here today. So once they kind of get out of one of the river systems, it's really hard to get them back into a river system. So we know that something was different. Even though we have the rivers here today, these animals were living in them while the mammoths were here, but they aren't today. The males don't leave the water. The females will leave to lay their eggs, but for the most part, they stay in the river. So if you've got a big snapper, you had to have a fairly big body of water to support these animals. So we don't know exactly when this animal lived, but if we can figure that out, then we can say something about, well, at that time, we had to have a large river right here in order to support this turtle.